to Berdyaev, commercial life is anti-contemplative and therefore anti-spiritual, and it is essentially futurist in its subjection of the eternal to the temporal, the spiritual to the material, and the present to the future. Nothing is of value in and of itself. Everything is fodder for economic development. I feel that in my life. Wow.
Yeah.
15. If it was 11.
Welcome to the Subversive Orthodoxy podcast. I'm your host, Travis Mullen, and I'm excited to have you with us. This is a podcast about philosophy and meaning. It is about how we as humans withstand the challenges of our cultures. It is about the general Judeo-Christian revelation of God in the world and how the bloodiest century ever recorded couldn't kill that revelation. It's also about how that revelation, tossed aside as archaic, outdated, and obsolete, may be the very life-giving power we need to resist this distracted techno state we're living in, full of anxiety, depression, and teenage suicide.
It's great entertainment, thrilling entertainment. It's the inside story packed with drama.
I think in one of Walker Percy's books, he has a line in there where he says, that it's possible to lose yourself sitting next to your swimming pool in your $50 million mansion in Hollywood as easily as it is anywhere else. And it's sort of like your relationship with yourself slips away because it isn't anything it really is of a different order than rationality,
Yeah.
And that's why Kierkegaard had to come up with these terms and these words for it that nobody had up to that time made as explicit as he did.
Now, this next quote or reading is from Slavery and Freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this speaks to like our current cultural issue of like kind of collectivism, where it's like we all know right, and each person doesn't really matter. It's more like what the consensus is, which is sort of a mob mentality, which kind of happens on the right and the left.
Yeah.
So in Slavery and Freedom, he said, this is the value of each person rather than thinking of ourselves in a binary mob.
Right.
He says the person is of ultimate value, not the state, not society, not civilization. Every system that treats the human being as a means to an end, whether for profit, production, or collective utopia, is an affront to God. Both capitalism and socialism, in their modern forms, are guilty of this reduction. They suppress the inner life. They sacrifice freedom for order or efficiency, and they breed spiritual nihilism. Only the Christian personalism that sees each human being as unrepeatable, eternal, and called to co-creation can resist the mechanization of man. History itself will be judged by how it treats the person. This guy's deep. I mean, that made me emotional. Like, this guy was like very connected.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is coming from a very deep place.
Well, yeah.
Calling out all forms of everything. Like, to call it spiritual nihilism, it relates to how I feel about our culture, where I've had my faith going since 96, solidly.
Mm-hmm.
And so all my friends since then have known who I was, what I was about. And I can tell you, in how many years is that since 96?
30 or 30, 29 maybe.
In 29 years, you know how many people have come to me and been like, Travis, I'm spiritually seeking. I want to know some things. Can you tell me, can we have a conversation?
Mm-hmm.
I think like zero. And it's not because they haven't told me like, Travis, you're this kind of a Christian. I appreciate you or whatever.
Yeah.
I've heard some compliments like that, but like just their lack of desire, their hunger is not there. And how that relates to what Berdyaev just said. He said the left and the right, socialism, capitalism, breed spiritual nihilism.
Mm-hmm.
So it's spiritual death. It's like spiritual nothingness. And
Yeah.
you do see a resurgence of spirituality now through mindfulness, yoga.
Yeah.
People are realizing they have a spiritual need, and
Hmm.
they're looking for that somewhere. They need it from somewhere. So they've
Yeah.
turned to the east, I guess, since the
Hmm.
Beatles, right?
Yeah.
um, and rejecting the whole narrative of Christianity for some form that they were turned off by at
Hmm.
some point in time. So, obviously, what Berdyaev's saying is like you're disconnecting yourself from the source of it all. Like when you disconnect from truth and beauty of God Himself and like Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, your relationship to yourself as a self, you replace it with your relationship with the world or to an image or something. In one of Walker Percy's books, he talks about NASA having a contest where what would be the question that we would ask the aliens, the first question we would ask the aliens when they land. And they had in this
Oh yeah,
novel,
this is in your book.
yeah. And so all these questions come up, can you explain the time space continuum, in a way that a third grader can understand, or all these things. And the one that won was, uh, did it happen to you? And they said, well, what happened to you? He says, well, do you have a self that gives you trouble? Are you divided between yourself and yourself? Or are you just a highly formed insect or a robot machine that has no interior life?
Mm.
And if you do have an interior life, is that what sent you to find us? Are you looking for friends or are you looking for food? That's that's the question.
That's cool.
And it is kind of the existential question. Are you looking for friends? Are you looking for food?
Mm.
Am I part of your predatory power grab, or are you part of the love that created the universe?
Mm.
What do you identify with? What is, and and Berdyaev, as being part of the French of the Russian Revolution and then being its enemy, probably made it so clear to him where the lines were drawn, and
Yeah.
between an existential thinker and a power seeker, that he just couldn't stop himself from explaining it. It would just
Yeah, he wasn't
explode
shy
him.
about it.
Oh yeah.
I have one here on God and atheism. He's not
Okay,
shy.
yeah, I'd like to hear this one.
But what you just said also, like if you reduce it down to food and food or friend,
Yeah.
that's kind of like Darwinism versus Christian thought is like
Yeah.
food is survival,
Yeah.
and that's the theme of Darwinism, survival of the
Yeah.
fittest, and
Yeah.
what's going to survive. And then the root of Christianity, Christian thought is fellowship, community
Right.
of love.
Right. I
So if you reduce things down to their hardcore core, it starts to you start to see things a little more clearly of
yeah.
what world you want to live in or what view you want to hold,
Yeah.
But so here's him on an atheist and a God reading that he did
Mm,
or a writing about that. He
mm,
said it's in the larger context of a famous line that he said they rebel against God in the name of God,
mhm,
and it's from the book The Beginning and the End.
mhm,
So he says, thus it is that atheism in its higher, not in its base form, may be a dialectical cleansing of the human idea of God. When men have risen in revolt against God on the ground of the evil and wrong of the world, they have, by the very fact of so doing, presupposed the existence of a higher truth, That is to say, in the last resort of God. They rebel against God in the name of God. For the sake of purging men's understanding of God, they revolt against a conception of him which has been besmirched by the mire of this world. But as he treads this path of conflict and anguish, man may pass through an experience which brings him moments not only of absolute God-forsakenness, but even the death of God. And it's got a "they have killed God," said Nietzsche reference.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that is a pretty powerful reflection, yeah, especially coming from him. Um,
Yeah.
that and also, he wrote a book on Dostoevsky, and I haven't read his book on Dostoevsky, which I'm going to read before we talk about Dostoevsky, so I can bring Berdyaev into the conversation.
You don't have much time. I hope you're a fast reader, Professor.
Yeah, it's on interlibrary law.
Dostoevsky's next.
Yeah, but that's one of the themes in the Brothers Karamazov, where the brother with the deepest conscience has the biggest problem with faith. Um, and
Is that Ivan
yeah, that's Ivan.
or Ivan?
Yeah, Ivan.
Yeah,
And
I started the book on audio. I'm like a few chapters in.
yeah, and but the uh, his spiritual crisis, is there are parallels and antithetical versions of it in the other brothers, which allow us to see both the strength and weakness of that conception. Um, it's it's a kind of it's not just a theological conundrum. It's a personal revelation that emerges, and but we'll deal with that when we get to Dostoevsky.
And for the two little interludes right here,
Okay.
I found this at the thrift store the other day
Uh-huh.
for $1.
Oh, really?
Found me a copy of The Everlasting Man by G.K. Chesterton
Oh, wow. That's
from
a
from
good
ni
buy.
from 1958.
Wow.
So I'm excited about that.
Is it autographed by him?
I wish. And I picked this up in Westerly, Rhode Island,
Oh, yeah. All
on the Road by
right.
Jack
Kerouac.
Kerouac. So my whole library is becoming Subversive Orthodoxy only books. And I'm gonna
Well,
get rid of other ones that were not written like at least 50, 60, 80 years ago.
when we get into Kerouac Catholicism, we'll be in a whole new space by that time, I'm sure.
Yeah, we get there. It's like a few people ahead. But
Yeah.
could you elaborate on his concept of personalism and how it pushed him away from both Marxism and capitalism? Like we've touched on a little bit, but I don't know if you could do a little more with that. Like, how did his Christian vision shape his critique? He didn't think the left or the right upheld the dignity of the person, because
Right.
that would be very relevant to our modern politics right now.
Yeah, well, both sides want to save the world by crushing the person. And so,
Can you elaborate on that? Because I don't think that's what like either one would say about themselves.
well, well, because they think in terms of numbers and in terms of
Team, they want to crush the other team.
well, no, I think it's more that they don't give the choices to the people that they're saving from themselves. They think they know better than the people themselves, so they don't. I think Berdyaev said it when they were talking about Russian Revolution, that he wanted to change the laws so that there would be a greater democratic decision making, rather than the party, which Lenin wanted to put in service of the revolution, or the old aristocracy that wanted to take over the decision making. And so he was sort of saying, well, you can't have freedom and the dignity of the person unless you give them the capacity to make choices over their own lives and be part of the creation of the laws that govern them. And so neither one of the parties want to share decision making with the people that they want to vote for them. It doesn't seem. I mean, they
Yeah, they're
seem
not
to
actually they're not actually listening to the
yes, they're
people in
not
general.
actually listening to people who say, well, I don't know, I don't want to have people take care of me. I want to have freedom to make my own choices about things. Well, okay, how do we arrange that? How do we get different? Hey, it was with Chesterton. It's sort of like capitalism is great if it's fairly distributed, but if all the capital is in the hands of 1%, then it's not capitalism. It's authoritarianism of
Or
the
corporatism.
or corporatism. And the Democrats, well, okay, but if it's just the number, the majority that makes the decision, that's not really listening to all of the people either. To have a democracy that is going to work, you need, more feedback from multiple sources and, distributive justice. And there doesn't seem to be a working out of those problems in the way
Yeah,
that you would think, this long into history, that we could have worked that out a little better. But
yeah, a Berdyaev quote totally says what you just nailed him on that. He says both capitalism and socialism fail to respect the spiritual freedom of the person. They seek to organize society but do not understand man.
yes,
Like
exactly.
they don't really want to hear from the individuals and solve like very complex problems. They want to like coercively either party in any society probably wants to create a platform and then just run with it and ram it into the rest of the people, you know?
Well, actual human beings are a disappointment because they're unpredictable and they're irrational, and
Yeah.
they do things that you think are not in their self-interest, which better. And anybody that has kids understands this, that to treat your kid with love and respect means you're going to have to listen to his stupid
Yeah.
decisions when he's 12 and take him seriously and give him the dignity and the respect that will allow him to give you the dignity and respect, and those are difficult things that the gospels are trying to explain how you do that, how do you deal with the power differential or the roles of people in a culture, and desires that conflict with self, interest and things? How do you overcome all those mimetic aspects of human nature? And there
Oh,
isn't
can you review that word? Because I remember it from,
that well, I would just Rene
oh
Girard's
yeah, he's in
notion of the mimetic imagination, where we all learn
We
what to
Desire a
want
Guru.
from our parents, who learn it from their parents and their peer groups,
But
and
isn't it a desire that I want someone to tell me, like I want the guru or I want the mimetic desire?
well, it's more subtle than that. It's unconscious. We want the things that the people we admire want.
Uh,
And so we want what dad and mom want for us because we admire them when we're little. And then it's only later that we find, well, that probably wasn't a good choice for me, or that I misread what it was that they really wanted for me. They didn't want me to be the greatest baseball player. They wanted me to exercise or something. And I misread the
yeah.
imperative, Uh, and so that's, I guess we're still pretty young in terms of civilization to have worked out, the debts we owe one another in this culture. I mean, geez, look at our history.
Hmm.
We've got some debts and some karma to pay, uh, and I don't even think we're trying. You know.
What's so disingenuous about that is the notion of a Christian nation and a religious right
Yeah.
that doesn't want to talk about that,
Yeah.
like slavery and Native American genocide,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and along with, many other things. But those are the two biggest ones in our history that are just
Oh,
completely,
yeah.
completely not, by a lot of people and a lot of general broad strokes of culture do not want to talk about or acknowledge. Or it wasn't me, it wasn't, and it wasn't us directly, it wasn't
Yeah.
ourselves, but it was a great injustice in our country, and it caused, both of those caused major injustice to Native Americans, and it's still going on, and to African Americans, and it's still going on. Like
Amen.
a lot of effects are still happening. Some friends had a debate with me on that a few years ago. This was kind of hilarious because um, I was I wasn't even saying the idea, but he was just arguing against someone about
Hmm.
systemic racism.
Hmm.
And he goes, systemic racism isn't in our country anymore. Like it's been long gone. Like that's way out of here. Like I'm sure there's some racist people, but there's no systemic stuff. And I go, dude, I just did my mortgage license uh class. We had a whole huge section on redlining, which was
Yeah.
happening in the 70s and the 80s in my lifetime.
Hmm.
Black people were not allowed to buy in these neighborhoods that were redlined.
Yeah.
And it was not gone in the 80s. It was legally gone in the 80s, and it wasn't gone.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
segregation was gone, but it wasn't gone. So
Exactly.
these things, and then you have the argument that slavery was over, but then mass incarceration and then putting inmates to work is
Yeah.
like a whole
Oh,
nother
well,
modification of slavery. So those arguments are, when people dis deflect those arguments too easily,
mhm.
I'm highly skeptical.
Yeah. Well, and part of it reflects on our inability to dismantle them. You know, and, and I'm sure
Dismantle
that,
what?
well, dismantle their arguments to sort of free them from the shackle of their prejudice,
Oh yeah,
because we participated too in some way. I'm sure Berdyaev, when he was on the philosopher ship, had some interesting conversations with guys about, why did we lose the argument with Lenin? Why did the violent Bolsheviks win the argument in Russia, or did they? How do we come back from this? It's going to be hundreds of years before we come back from this. Uh,
yeah,
it's like thinking of Cortez as a great evangelist. You know,
yeah,
yeah, he was a great evangelist, all right. That's historical genocide of a level that we haven't even imagined yet. It's,
yeah. And
oh,
for that to be placed on Christian faith in the sense of what Berdyaev is talking
yeah,
about is
yeah.
completely the opposite.
Yes,
That's
right.
what's so crazy about that critique on Christianity is like, well, dude, Cortez was acting in 100% the opposite of everything Jesus taught. So
Yeah,
how can we even associate it? Well, the church was complicit. So yeah, I'm going to critique that church at that time, not the whole thing, because it's obviously opposed to Jesus in absolution. Like
well,
every form of that is an absolute contradiction of Jesus. And even today, like the way immigration is being treated is an absolute contradiction to Jesus.
yeah,
And that's orthodoxy right there. Like you can't treat people
right,
like that.
right.
You just
Well,
can't.
that's why we're gonna read Dostoevsky, because talk about him, because he started asking those questions. How do you talk about these things in ways that penetrate people's unconscious defenses um,
Yeah, great question.
that keep them from registering anything that might cause them to doubt their own understanding of the faith, and their projections onto themselves or other people. How do you overcome that aspect of human nature? So that's part of what he was writing about.
Did he verbalize that, or are you saying you picked that up from Brothers Karamazov?
Yeah, it's one of the big themes in Brothers Car. It's one of the big
I know,
themes.
but did you hear him actually explicitly say that? Or you can just tell that's what he's doing.
He explicitly says stuff like that. Yeah,
That he's trying to help people to think through their own beliefs without causing them, like without making them defensive, helping
yeah,
them to analyze internally
yeah.
with.
Exactly. That's
That's a powerful question.
there's one scene in Brothers Karamazov, one of my favorite scenes, where one of the brothers is a street fighter,
Which
and he
brother?
likes to he likes to get in fights in bars.
Which brother?
Dmitri,
Mishna?
yeah. And so he beat up this old man outside of a bar in front of the old man's, I think it's his grandson or his son, a little boy. And it was a humiliation. And Alyosha, the younger brother, um, wants to do something to make it up to this guy. So he decides that he's going to give him 100 kopecks, pay him off, and apologize for his brother because he knows his brother's not going to do it. So he goes to the guy and he says, normally when our brother beats up people in a bar, and he does this all the time, you're not the only one. We pay the person 100 kopecks, but we don't have 100 because it's been a tough month. So would you take 75? And the old man says, you give me 75 kopecks? He goes, yeah, yeah, I know. I wish it were 100, but I can only give you 75. And he says, you're going to give me a check for that? He said, yeah. So he gives him a check for 75 kopecks. And the old man rips it up and throws it in his face and says, if you think I take any money from a Karamazov, you don't understand what kind of man I am. And he walks away. So Alyosha goes home and his girlfriend says, how'd it go? Did he take the 75 kopecks? And Alyosha says, oh, it went great. He ripped up the check and threw it in my face and said, screw you, Karamazovs. And she said, well, that doesn't sound very good. And he says, oh, no, he got it off his chest. He had to do that. And he got a little bit of his pride back. Tomorrow I'm going to go off from 100 and he's going to take it. And she said, boy, you're pretty good at this. He goes, yeah, my spiritual director, Zosima, has told me about the underground in man and the need for pride and the need for dignity and the need to be able to take a hit for the team. And that's what I'm learning. And so that's just one of the small things. But then it starts getting bigger because then he starts working with groups and kids, and he starts dealing with people with psychological crises in their families and stuff. And he's trying to work out how to be a Christian that acknowledges the psychology of the underground in human beings in a way that brings them out of the underground rather than secures them deeper into it. And that's one of the big themes of the novel. And of course, the two most underground people in the novel are his brothers and his father. And so that becomes the big family dynamic that the whole novel is built around. So that's on a family level, but is there anybody? I'm sure there are people. I mean, Gandhi was trying to work that out in a public, domain. Martin Luther King was trying to work that out. We have some really prophetic figures in the 20th century that have, Mandela and Tutu, the councils on reconciliation. All those are experiments in bringing Christian love into modern life.
We've established that his faith wasn't always like super orthodox, or he
Yeah.
hated institutions, including the church.
Right. Mm-hmm.
How do you think his faith, in such a way that he kept resisting like secularism, but also religious authoritarianism, which is a common
Mm-hmm.
theme. We heard that in Kierkegaard a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Blake
Mm-hmm.
also.
Mm-hmm.
In what way was his faith subversive even to the church itself?
Well, the some of these guys, they're like Tolstoy is another example, and Simone Weil, people like that, kind of get labeled Christian anarchists because they're so critical and suspicious of the way institutional forms distort, their vision of Christ for the sake of, organizational imperatives. And
Kierkegaard too.
in Kierkegaard too, he called it Christendom. That.
And Kierkegaard resisted the last rites of his church.
Did he really? I don't remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
He rejected it.
Yeah.
But how much of this for Berdyaev, Kierkegaard, I mean, speak specifically to Berdyaev, but how much of this to Simone Weil, Berdyaev, Tolstoy? Okay, yeah. So how much of that do you think was their personality, or their reaction to the church at their time, the church, the state of the institutional church of their location and time in history? Because that was very unique to Kierkegaard. He never left Denmark, so all he knew was the Denmark church, the official church of Denmark.
Yeah.
So that's what he's reacting against. I don't know what Simone Weil was reacting against. I don't know. Berdyaev is Russian Orthodox.
Well, it's probably different percentages of both. And I think part of the key here, you look in the Bible, and you look at the prophets in the Old Testament, and wasn't it Isaiah who said, God says your Holocaust are an abomination to me? So that's like, your rituals, your fundamental rituals of reconciliation with your God are an abomination to your God.
Did you mean to say Holocaust, or were you saying for a different word?
No, that's by Holocaust, he meant your sacrifices.
Oh, okay.
Are an abomination to me.
I never saw that translation.
That's pretty hardcore prophetic language. And that would be, pretty harsh institutional critique if you took it that way. So there's.
Well, Professor, absolutely. I mean, that's a great point. That's a great point, is that in the biblical prophets, you have, maybe this is in Bergman or in Heschel, a function of the prophets is that they do critique the institution at its time, at that time. And I think it's worth reading that passage because it's very, very relevant to the point in Isaiah, because it's extremely aggressive.
Yeah.
He says, I hate your assemblies,
Yes.
And that's crazy. I mean, that's like, and he's speaking for God. He's saying God is saying this.
I know.
Okay, so it's in Isaiah 1, right at the beginning. This is Isaiah 1. So if you think anyone critical of the institutional religious gathering of the time is heretical, then Isaiah is heretical.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He says, hear the word of the Lord, you rulers of Sodom. Listen to the instruction of our God, you people of Gomorrah. The multitude of your sacrifices, what are they to me, says the Lord? I have more than enough burnt offerings of rams and fattened animals. I have no pleasure in the blood of bulls and lambs and goats. When you come to appear before me, Who has asked this of you, this trampling of my courts? Stop bringing me meaningless offerings. Your incense is detestable to me. And incense is often
Hmm.
equated with prayers.
Right.
New moons, Sabbaths, convocations. I cannot bear your worthless assemblies.
Wow.
Your new moon feasts and your appointed festivals, I hate with all my being. Oh my gosh. So easy, God.
Yeah.
I am weary of bearing them.
Hmm.
When you spread out your hands in prayer, I hide my eyes from you. And even when you offer many prayers, I am not listening. Your hands are full of blood. Wash and make yourselves clean. Take your evil deeds out of my sight. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow.
Amen.
So yeah, you can't write these people off if they're critical of the institution of their day,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
which I
And
think a lot of my evangelical academic brothers and sisters might have a tendency to do,
well, yeah. I mean,
and Catholic scholars as well, I'm sure.
well, we all want to have our cake and eat it too, right? We want to be respecters of the prophets, but not quite yet. What was it? I think was it Augustine that said, I'm gonna
It already
give up.
sounds good, whatever that is.
I'm gonna give up sexuality, but not yet, or something. Or I'm gonna give up
Yeah,
give up my sins, but not yet.
the
Yeah, the
that's really good.
yeah.
So I think we tackled that one.
All right.
Last question and thought is that to any of our listeners who are, like creatives or seekers or feel like outsiders in faith, which I want to encourage them to listen. And
Mhm.
I've told a few friends who have no faith, just check it out. It's
Mhm.
coming from a general enough angle with a bunch of different thinkers that it's not some one thing trying to convert you or anything. This podcast is like a very general approach to a bunch of different thinkers from a bunch of different angles. And
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think there's so much all of these thinkers have to offer the to the artist, to the spiritual seeker, and those are disillusioned with modern life. Like a lot of this stuff's very disillusioning. I mean, I've had multiple friends this last year.
Hmm.
They're like, I'm just trying to survive this dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And some of that's just politics, but some of it's beyond politics. It's in tech. Like I'm sick of social
Hmm.
media. I'm sick of fake news. I'm sick of
Hmm.
all of this. And it's creating like a type of despair.
Yeah.
So I think that's where this podcast and your book and like these thinkers are giving us so much to work with of hope and of depth and of like anchoring to deeper things that are constants, no matter no matter what is happening in this day and age. Constants through Stalin, through Lenin, through
Yeah.
uh any Hitler, everything. Like these are people that lived through these times, and it's just phenomenal what they're bringing to the table.
Well, it's almost like they're saying, "What God don't you believe in? I don't believe in that God either."
Yeah, most of the time.
Or like when Pasternak, I lost my faith in atheism.
Yeah.
you know, or Berdyaev, the great socialist revolution turned out to be no revolution at all, a
Yeah.
disrespecter of persons.
I want to end on our last reading of your book,
Okay.
um, the second half of that section, which I feel like it's worth reading because it was so well written, Professor. Like
Okay.
seriously, those friends who have read and are reading along, like they've all agreed with me that your writing was very, very good. Like it's very dense and quick. Like you get a
Yeah.
lot in a short amount. You have to go back and reread it.
Yeah.
We've all agreed that. So your writing's very powerful and dense. So that's a
Yeah.
compliment. Um, so back to this bit that Berdyaev was saying, and I just want to read this as a conclusive bit to leave you with to leave
Okay.
everyone with like what he was saying and a couple of his quotes. So I think that's a good way to end it.
Okay.
So this may seem like blasphemy to modern free thinkers who think of themselves as Christians. But for Berdyaev, anything that put material development before the kingdom of God was suspect. It was not enough to pursue material gains 6 days out of the week and holiness on Sundays. The bourgeois was not really hypocritical. They knew what they were doing. It was just that they forgave themselves too easily and justified their avarice as a form of pragmatic realism, just as Blake had predicted they would. The materialism of Descartes, Locke, and Newton had replaced the invisible god of transcendence with the god of progress and commerce. It reminds me of merchants in Revelation.
Yeah.
The merchant class, basically, which is the oligarchy, basically.
Yeah.
Berdyaev explains, and this is from, actually, I don't know, probably the same book as quoted before.
Yeah. History. Meaning of history.
Meaning of history. So in that book, he also says this: civilization, as opposed to culture, which is given up to the contemplation of eternity, tends to be futurist. Machinery and technique are chiefly responsible for the speeding up of life and its exclusive aspiration toward the future. Organic life is slower, less impetuous, and more concerned with essentials, while civilized life is superficial and accidental, for it puts the means and the instruments of life before the ends whose significance is lost. The consciousness of civilized men is concentrated exclusively upon the means and techniques of life, considered as the one reality, as the only reality, while its aims are regarded as illusory. To Berdyaev, commercial life is anti-contemplative, and therefore anti-spiritual, and it is essentially futurist in its subjection of the eternal to the temporal, the spiritual to the material, and the present to the future. Nothing is of value in and of itself. Everything is fodder for economic development. I feel that in my life. Wow.
Yeah.
Social change, technological growth, and industrial productivity. Even leisure and rest are valued for what they add to one's productivity, or how we can make money off of it. Time is money, and money is power. This view of time as a commodity, indeed of life, spirit, health, and meaning as commodities, creates a new human type focused upon personal achievement. Again, Berdyaev remarks, as a reaction against the medieval ascetic ideal, man puts aside both resignation and contemplation and attempts to dominate nature, organize life, and increase its productive forces. This, however, does not help to bring him into closer communion with the inner life and soul of nature. On the contrary, by mastering it technically and organizing its forces, man becomes further removed from it. Organization proves to be the death of the organism. Life becomes increasingly a matter of technique. The machine sets its stamp upon the human spirit and all its manifestations. Thus, civilization has neither a natural nor a spiritual, but a mechanical foundation. It represents par excellence the triumph of technique over both the spirit and the organism. Sheesh. Talk about what modern work has done to us.
Yes.
In our cubicles, sitting on our laptops.
All right, my friend.
Well,
Okay.
thank you so much.
All right. Well, tell our next time with Dostoevsky. We'll have fun, I'm sure, with that.
Now, Dostoevsky's this one's going to be 2 parts because we've gone about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Dostoevsky, I expect to be 2 or more parts because I need the audience to pray for us. Professor taught Brothers Karamazov for 20 years or 25 years. So how is he going to do this?
Well,
how am I going to harness in the professor's knowledge on Dostoevsky?
We'll do Notes from Underground first, and then we'll do a shortened version of the Brothers Karamazov the second time.
Well, 2 episodes on Brothers K, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I'll probably need you to section that out in your head, Professor, how you're going to approach that.
Yeah, well.
Because I will not know how to manage you on that if you know that much about it.
Okay.
So yeah, just for audience to know, Professor's specialties are in Dostoevsky and especially Merton. He wrote like 3 or 4 or 5 books on Merton. So when we get to Merton,
5, I think 3.
3, maybe 7.
Yeah.
But on Merton also we have a special surprise, which is part of the professor's faith story had to do with Merton.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Okay.
Until next time, thank you, Professor.
Okay, adios.
Adios. Thank you for listening to Subversive Orthodoxy. If today's conversation stirred something in you, whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or somewhere in the middle of deconstruction, know this. This isn't about reclaiming an old religious philosophy. It's about realizing that there are ancient constants that challenge the very things in culture that are dehumanizing us as we speak. We're going to continue exploring what it means to live a life of deep meaning in this world that often feels fragmented and nihilistic. And this prophetic imagination doesn't seem to come to us from the expected places. It's not confined to pulpits or seminaries. The prophetic voice is breaking through in novels, poetry, charity work, art, and the unexpected corners of culture. We hope you'll continue to join us in this ongoing conversation. Until then, thank you for listening.
Spiritually,
If you found this meaningful, please leave a 5-star review, subscribe, and share with anyone who might resonate with this conversation. Adios. This has been a Subversive Orthodoxy podcast with Travis Mullen and Professor Inchausti. Say hi to human beings with a smile unseen, grabbing wildflowers as I slide down.